All right, welcome to lesson 1 for related issue 3. Today we're going to be talking about internationalism. What is it, and basically how does it work? So internationalism is the belief that all members of the global community accept collective responsibility for the challenges that face the world. So it's this understanding that countries have to work together. Okay, so we can't do it alone. We need to have collaboration. So countries need to work together. And the motives of nations and nation states must also be respected while finding solutions. So it's working together, but also having self-determination or independence within that. We talked a lot about the motives of nations last unit, so we should have an understanding of the things that countries want. So in the last 100 years, countries have been putting more and more effort into working collaboratively. We've seen that even with after World War I, we get the creation of the League of Nations. And then even when that failed, we see World War II, and then the creation of the United Nations. So countries realized that fighting and wars weren't going to make us progress and weren't going to solve any problems. So there needed to be an effort to work together to solve problems. Many nations and leaders saw more win-win opportunities when it came to international relations. So we're going to talk about some of the motives of international affairs. So why are countries interested, basically? So why are countries or nations interested? What do they get out of internationalism? To understand this better, we're going to look at something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is a sort of psychology system that explains what people or what things want. So it starts off as a base level of psychological needs. So these are things such as food and water, shelter, okay, basic needs to survive, things that you have to have. Once a person has met your psychological needs, you can then start looking at safety needs. Okay, so safety needs are things such as security, peace, protection, okay, feeling like you're safe. So first you have your food, water, shelter, all your basic necessities. Then you're feeling safe, okay, you're happy in the environment you're in. And you can start to look at the next section here, which is love and belonging. So that is things like friendships and familial or other relationships. Okay, so friendships, family, and relationships. That's the next step. Okay, so you have food, water, shelter, you feel safe. Now you can start to build bonds with the people around you. The top two are a little bit harder to aspire to, right? Having safety, food, shelter, your basic necessities and relationships, that's the foundation of a person or a society. These next two steps, esteem and self-actualization, are a little bit harder. So esteem, we can think of that as basically having goals. Okay, you have something to aspire to. You have a job, you have a career, you've gone to school, okay? You have a plan for your life. So goals, plans, a future. Then, once you have done that, you've set your goals, you've set out your plans for your life, and you start to meet them. We'll get to the hardest and final step, something called self-actualization. So in self-actualization, you've basically met all your needs, okay? I'll make it an easier color to read here. Do it black. You met your needs. And in this section, you can start to help others. So you've done everything that you need to be successful. You have had your basic needs met. You feel safe. You have strong relationships. You have goals that you are achieving or have achieved. And now you can reflect on that and begin to help others meet their needs. Now, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is usually used when we're looking at individual people, but it also applies to countries. Countries need to meet these steps in order to be involved in internationalism and helping others. Okay, so internationalism. So countries have 4 motives in order to meet these motives of helping internationalism. So many successful nation states, especially those with democratic governments, are motivated to achieve and maintain these 4 things, which are economic stability, peace and security, self-determination, and humanitarianism. We can kind of think of this as Maslow's hierarchy, okay? These all fit in there somewhere. So we're going to discuss which each one is, and then I'm going to ask you guys to tell me where you think they fit on the hierarchy of needs. The first one is economic stability. People usually get an education, find a job, and save money so they can meet their future needs. Countries do the same actions to achieve economic stability. So, for example, a national government might develop trade policies that support exports, products that are sold in other countries. Strong exports help keep employment levels high. So a country will set up policies to help them earn more money. And if they earn more money, they can put that money into things like employment for their people. They can put it into things like schools or education, hospitals, roads, and so on. So things that will help their country. And economic stability keeps this country able to achieve these goals. So that's the first motive. You want to be able to trade with other countries and have an income to make your country stable economically. Next is peace and security. So society cannot function unless people feel safe, okay? You have to feel safe where you are. Otherwise, things like going to school and work aren't possible. Nations and nation states often promote safety and security at home by passing laws, creating police forces, and making rules for workplace. They also promote interactions with the rest of the world. So we talked about this a lot in Unit 2. We looked at police forces, we looked at military forces, and we talked about how countries want to make their citizens feel safe. Because if citizens feel safe, then they're able to carry on with normal life. Next, we have self-determination. Nations are usually very motivated to control their own future. Self-determination within a nation state is often accompanied by a formal agreement between one nation and another. Nations can go even one step further and seek sovereignty. So we talked about self-determination at the end of Unit 2. So it's a country's ability to have control of themselves, right? To have goals and aspirations. Sovereignty is a similar thing, right? Where they have agreements with other nations that they are independent and function on their own. And then lastly, we have a new step for us called humanitarianism. Nations and nation states are also motivated to take action to relieve the suffering and protect the innocent. Natural disasters, disease, war, and conflict can all cause horrible suffering, and some countries do not have the resources to respond. Countries such as Canada can help those suffering by providing money, supplies, emergency teams, and humanitarian workers to help. So in the humanitarian section, countries are helping others. So they do this through several things. Okay, we can see something called NGOs, which stands for non-government organizations, or through government funding. Okay, these two steps are ways that countries help other countries. But in order to provide humanitarian relief, a country must be successful. Okay, it's hard for a poor, poverty-stricken country to give away money to help others. But when we think of developed countries, Canada, the United States, China, United Kingdom, Russia, all of these countries are already successful and they have extra money, we could say. And with this extra money, they can put it as part of their foreign policy to help others. So an example of one of these non-government organizations is I've included some symbols at the bottom. Okay, this is from a group called the Red Cross. You might have heard of them or seen the symbol before. This is some of their other international symbols as well, but the Red Cross. It's a non-governmental organization that goes to other countries that are in need, usually after natural disasters or conflict and disease, and they help people living in those countries to get access to medical care.